Welcome back. I'm Kim Bailey, he's Jamie Wadley, and this is Inside Exec. This is the second part of our discussion with Jim Stevenson, where he's answering questions that you submitted to him after his last visit. Today we're on to questions 3 and 4.
Number 3, we've made a large investment as an organisation in ensuring the physical safety of our workplace. Do we now have to focus more on mental health as the pace of change increases?
Yeah, this one confused me slightly.
I'll give you some background. It came from an organisation that mostly does construction work. So it's the physical safety on a construction site, but because combined with the change in the way they are managed, as well as the actual construction being taken over by more advanced machinery, it's about, does the organisation have a responsibility towards the mental health of the people who are being replaced, and that would go across industry? Or is it just that we stick with what the regulators want us to do in terms of physical safety for the time being?
So making it construction changes my answer slightly, but I'll give you the answer that I had because I think it works in other contexts as well. If you introduce a new tool into your workplace, is your employees' mental health impacted? Probably not. I mean, if you're changing from Word to whatever, it's not going to change mental health. So for me, I think I was going to answer this, but I'll come back to the construction part of it. For me, I think this is less about introducing a new tool and it's more about the workplace culture itself. If your employees are feeling safe, if they're feeling valued, introducing a new tool won't change that. The reality, though, is that AI will come in, it will make things more efficient, it will make people lose jobs. So I think the employer, if they're worried about mental health because of AI, I think they've probably not been doing enough about mental health to start with. They've not been creating a culture. And I think I've said so often now, every company has a culture. It's whether you have one you chose or whether you're accepting the one that was created. So I think they probably need to do some work on the culture within the organisation anyway to make people feel safe and valued and seen. And then introducing a new tool into that environment is less of a concern because people are actually healthy, they're mentally well-being, already been taken care of, and they understand where the company is going. I did write something a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn actually talking about how the math of AI doesn't work. And what people are saying is AI will be introduced and people won't lose their jobs. And my take 2 weeks ago was that's not true. If AI comes in and makes you more efficient, you either have to do more work or you need less people to do it. That's the math that we're working with here. I'm now kind of easing up in that point of view. I genuinely am. I've heard 2 or 3 people talk about how it's not about AI taking over, it's about AI augmenting, and it's about AI actually helping and supporting and moving us forward. And so while the volume of work may decline, I think in the transitionary period until we know where AI lands, people might go down to a 3-day work week. And personally, I'd love that. That would be amazing. So there's other ways of AI implementing that doesn't mean everyone's going to lose their jobs. I think some people will. Some people will need to be retrained. But I think it's for the leadership of the company to set that tone. Our commitment is to our people. And rather than laying off 20% of staff, we'll come and talk to you about everyone working a 4-day week. We'll find ways around about it. We'll be collaborative. You'll be involved. We'll figure this out together because the whole world is changing. And I think I can understand the question coming from that point of view of mental health is going to be an issue because people are concerned and fearful for their jobs. But that's not an AI challenge. That's a business leadership, management, cultural challenge. In construction, I think it's a bit more fundamental. And to be honest, I'm not sure it's AI. I think it's going to be more robotics and AI that will interfere with construction. But still, someone has to set the system up. Someone has to point it in the right direction. Someone needs to kind of be able to operate it. And ultimately, when something goes wrong, someone needs to fix it. And it's all great and well. Prefabricated homes were a big thing for a long while because you could make them in a factory and then just plant them on the site. And the reason that was so valuable was because you could make them in the factory regardless of the weather. It could be snowing outside and you can still be manufacturing. On a construction site, you don't have that luxury. Sometimes it's going to be raining. Sometimes it's going to be 34.8 degrees. No one's going to work outside. There's lots of issues there. So I think while AI ultimately will take over a lot of these jobs, I think in the interim, we still need people to do it. And just in that point, I think the question I always pose when people ask about AI and what's it going to be, what's the future and things, can we all agree in 100 years' time AI is going to rule the world? It's going to be dominant. What we have today will be 100 million times more advanced in 100 years' time than we have today. So this is not, will AI take over my job? This is when will AI take over my job? And that will affect everyone. It's not just you, it's not just me. And I don't think the world can operate like that. I think it's a case of we have to have something to do. We have to be optimistic. We have to be moving forward. So forget about 100 years' time, 50 years' time, 20 years' time. We're going through a transition at the moment and work within the transition. And the transition is keep people's mental health going. They're not scared of AI. They're scared of losing their jobs.
Yes.
Figure out a way to work with them and be collaborative with them.
Yeah. Just on that, it was just over 12 months since we've talked to you. And what an explosion of change has happened in that period of time. We were just at the edge of thinking, yes, people will start to think about using AI and there'll be this and there'll be that. And then all of a sudden, now, just over 12 months later, we're talking shorthand about using it.
Completely.
Have you seen an industry that is handling it better than others?
No, not an industry. I know specific companies. I don't know of any industry. I mean, you could argue technology because they are technology. They're the ones writing it. Microsoft, apparently most of Word these days is written by AI. Anthropic, all of the skills that they're releasing, and they seem to be releasing one every 2 weeks at the moment, that's majority written by AI because no human being could produce what they're producing that quickly. So the technology, and that's a kind of given. I don't know of anyone else as an industry that's doing it, but I do know some companies that are doing some awesome stuff, and not big companies either. Most of the awesome stuff is coming out of one-man bands, two-man bands. They've just kind of decided that they're reinventing what business looks like for them, and they're putting AI right into the heart of it, and it's doing great stuff.
So is it that ability to move quickly that gives them the advantage?
Yes, but in the broadest possible sense. It's not just a case of moving quickly, but it's then iterating quickly. So I know one company that has built its product on AI. It's not an AI product, but they built it with AI, and they've got agents that are doing the code writing, agents that are doing the code review, agents that are doing the quality assessment, agents that are monitoring for errors, agents that are analysing the errors and then putting that back into the agent that writes the code. But then alongside that, what they've done is exactly that same kind of wheel, but for their marketing. So they're looking at what's currently in the product. They're creating marketing. They're pushing the marketing out there. They're checking the analytics to see what marketing's working for them. They're putting that back into the creative process, and then they're changing so they've got these two flywheels running constantly using AI, and it just kind of works. And I think to kind of not to kind of break what I've said before, I think for some businesses that works, but I think if you want the human in the loop, the human needs to be in the loop somewhere. So it may not be that he's got a team of 10 in his marketing team, but you need someone in there just to make sure that you're on brand, you're not doing any of these things. And I can check for all of those things, but I think you still need a human in the loop in all of those things, at least at the moment.
Yeah. Nothing more, Jamie, before I move on to the next one?
No, I'm just enjoying this a whole lot. But I must admit, I've never heard anyone speak about the shortening of the week to help pick up the productive improvement of how we could all work if we use the technology in the right way. But I see that as a really good way forward. And the question I was going to pose to you, as you were saying it, have you come across it? But from the sounds of things, it sounds like there are people out there starting to think about it. But I could see how that would be something easier to do at maybe a smaller business level than it would be in a larger business. I think of Amazon's, firing 16,000 of their coding people. It's just the numbers. I know they've probably got tens of thousands left, but it's incredible the amount it'll change the landscape. And it must be so hard trying to know where to implement it and what to implement it on. Because it's gone beyond it's just the buzz now. It's where can we use it? How can we use it? Where do I put the human back in the loop? And is it doing us good, or is it costing us more than than we thought it would. But yeah, there's so many questions.
I'm happy to fall down that rabbit hole with you, because I've been thinking about this a little long as well. I mean, back in the 70s, they wrote the computer program COBOL, Common Business Oriented Language.
I love COBOL.
And oh wow, you're the only one then. But the reality of it was meant to allow users to write their own code. We've been looking for this for decades now. Likewise, we've had time and study motion things from the 60s and productivity systems ever since. You just need to jump on TikTok or YouTube and you'll see a dozen people telling you how to become more productive. So since the dawn of the 60s, at least, probably since the dawn of man, we've all been trying to become more efficient. And a 4-day working week has been on the agenda for, I don't know, decades. There's lots of things we've spoken for a long time, and it seems that AI has now become the answer. Whether it truly is or not, I'm not sure, but it seems to be the answer. But I think we've thought about all of these things for decades now. It's just that this is the time we're actually seeing it becoming a reality for us.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there about the 3 and 4 day work week, I feel as though I've got a 9 or 10 day work week now.
Yeah, well, there is that aspect of it. Yeah. If AI can give me a normal day, then that would be nice.
Exactly.
Question 4. How do we ensure that our AI dependency is focused on prediction so we can keep the humans providing judgment?
I think this goes back to the creative answer. Use AI when it's going to help, and understand where you want that AI in the process. I've seen so many people, I'm not going to say purporting to be AI experts, because I don't think very many of us are, unless you're the lead engineer at DeepMind or something. I'm not sure that you're genuinely an AI expert. But I've seen so many people looking at AI as a single point in time. It's like, I've got this agent and it's going to do this, and it's going to cover all of these different use cases, and it's going to be everything to everyone. And the reality is that's not what AI is there for. Not at the moment. Once we get into AGI and ASI, then it probably will be. I don't even want to think about how much that's going to cost me in tokens, but that's a problem for the future. But the reality is none of this is in a vacuum. It's not a single point in time. It's all part of a process. It's all part of the momentum of the business moving forward. And as long as the business is moving forward, you need to think about your process and your AI within that context. Yeah. And this is where a lot of companies will get unstuck. Have you written down your processes? Or are you just relying on your people to do the right thing at the right time? But you need to write down your processes to understand what decision is being made, by who, for what reason, and how complex is that decision. Do the regulators want to see that you've made that decision? Do your auditors want to see that you made that decision? Or do your board want to see that you made that decision? And going back to the very first point, how am I logging it and checking it? But then use the proper AI at the proper right point of the time through that process. But it is a process. And you may have different AIs working on the same process. There's open source tools now that do AI orchestration. And that's purely there to make sure that you're using the right part of the process, uses the right AI, passes back the right information, and moves it on to the next part. So from an architectural point of view, there's a couple of ways of doing this. One, you can have an orchestration agent, which very much is old-fashioned. I'm going to say old-fashioned, that's probably unkind. But traditional management, where you have someone at the top, they ask someone below them to do something, they get the answer back, they ask someone else to do something, they get the answer back, and they're the coordinator, they're the hub in the spoken hub model, and everything goes back through them. Or one of the things that Agentic is now doing, or has always done, but it's changed the mindset slightly, is you pass it on like you're in Starbucks with a coffee cup, and think of your information, your task as the cup. So the first thing you do is you walk in and say, can I have a coffee? And they write your name on it so they can identify you, and they write your order on it so they can identify what they're doing with the cup. But then the cup passes through all those processes. There is no hub in that model. It literally goes process step, process step, process step. And Agentic does that. So when you pass the input into your Agentic model, it goes away, it thinks about what you've asked for, it comes up with the answer, and then it says, and the next step is to pass it on to this Agentic to move this part of the process forward. So we've got a couple of models running now and how you actually do all of this. But the fundamental part is true. You do not use one AI to do everything. You do not allow your agentic AI, no matter, or AI, however you're doing it through skills or agentic, to make decisions that you're not happy with. You still control it. It is not a black box. It is not now going to run your business for you. You decide what parameters it has. In fact, even more basic than that, you decide whether to connect your AI to your email. If you don't connect your AI to your email, it's not writing your emails for you. So you decide what it connects to and how it works. But you've got to think about your business, understand your business to make sure that you're setting that up in a way that is appropriate for you, the process and the decisions, the complexity of the decisions and the relevancy of the decisions and the governance required around your decisions.
Yeah.
They're all things that you have to think about. The AI is not going to do that.
So the structure of what we're building to use the agents in really becomes the important part of it, and the AI is working within that structure become less important. Am I using Claude here, or am I using DeepSeek? Because the essence of what they have to do is be more defined, and you can trust the process enough to be able to slide other models into it if economies dictate that, or we might have failure at one end and want to have a backup somewhere else. So it gives us that strength of structure, I guess, is what it boils down to.
Absolutely. And the fact that you said DeepSeek there, you've opened up another rabbit hole for us to fall into.
Have you ever I've fallen into?
Yeah, fair enough. Have you ever seen anything in technology over the last 20 or 30 years where the technology companies didn't sell you something cheap and then within 2 years' time it was double or triple the price?
Well, it reminds me of, you may remember the Chinese steel dump, I think they called it, in the late 80s and 90s, where they were delivering steel at 80% of the cost of producing it. And then all of a sudden, when everyone else had fallen off the earth because they couldn't afford to keep up, all of a sudden we're around price. I wonder if we're seeing that now with AI, because the models are ridiculous, really.
Yeah, I mean, there is no way that Anthropic is making money off of my $20 a month account.
Exactly.
It is just not. It is a loss leader for them.
Yeah,
but once I'm engrossed in it, once I'm so committed to it, if I'm a business with a 10 million, 50, $200 billion turnover, you're not going to change that model out quickly, especially if you've not thought about it today and you've not put in orchestration layers and things like that allow you to plug and unplug things. So suddenly what we have, and my fear for most companies, and I'd have it as a risk log item in every company at the moment, is that we get so dependent on AI that when the cost triples or quadruples in 3-4 years, I can no longer afford my business. My business doesn't work. My cash flow's gone. I'm increasing prices to my customers. And it suddenly becomes rather than technology typically being a capex cost and spread over 5 years, tokens are an opex cost. And suddenly your opex going up by 3 or 4 times is going to be horrendous for most companies. And if you don't think about it today, you are going to get caught in 3 or 4 years' time, because
that's exactly right.
The prices are going up. There's no way that the companies are. I mean, you look at the losses, you look at the amounts that they're investing for the future, but they're all losing money. I think Anthropic may be making money at the moment, but I don't quite know how they're doing that. They're not making money from me, and I'm Scottish, so I'm happy with that. But it's not a good thing for the future.
I'm a token pincher as well. What can I say?
That's the questions answered for this week. Join us again next week for our continuing series with Jim Stevenson, answering your questions about AI and introducing it into your organisations. For now, I'm Kim Bailey, he's Jamie Wadley, and this is Inside Exec.